Okay, over to you, Elizabeth.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are from. I invite Dr. Kagema to kick us off for this day 2. Welcome, Dr. Kagema.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Elizabeth, and my co-convener, Dr. Washela, Brian Kamau over there, and Dockers and all the other great team from Karatina University. I can see Dr. Mushina there, Dr. Karen, and others. And most importantly, our esteemed viewers who have joined for this great training. The theme is empowering the youth for a global business ecosystem. Like I've said, this is day 2 of our discussion. Yesterday, we had the opening ceremony, so to call it. We had a keynote speech from Dr. Washila, and the forum was officially opened by the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of Academics, Research and Students Affairs of Karatina University, Professor Penina Alo Obuzo. So basically, on behalf of Youth Engagement Society and Karatina University, is to cordially welcome you from wherever you are. We are excited that we have over 605 participants who have registered for this great training, and they come from all over the world, especially our young Kenyans. We are excited to hear that we have people from all parts, the 4 corners of our republic, from Marsabit, from Mombasa, Busia, Kisumu, everywhere. It's so amazing. So allow me to request Dorcas to give us an opening prayer. We say it's our culture, and it's quite important. Dorcas, kindly.
Thank you, Dr. Kagema. Let us bow down for a word of prayer. Father, in Jesus' name, we come before you. We thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for gathering us all here today. And even as we start this session, we ask you that you may be with us and help us gain more knowledge that will impact our lives positively. In Jesus' name, I pray and believe. Amen.
Thank you very much. I'll hand over the program to Dr. Elizabeth, who will invite Dr. Washila to give some briefs. Dr. Elizabeth.
Hello. Thank you so much, Dr. Kagema. Again, my name is Dr. Elizabeth Bashir. I am the rapporteur for today's session and very excited to do that. Before I introduce our first speaker, Brian Kamau, let me just welcome you as one of the hosts. We are live on YouTube, and as you know, as Dr. Kagema said, we have over 600 registered participants. Due to that reason, to make sure that we stream this to you live and direct with no interruptions whatsoever, we are streaming to YouTube rather than on Zoom. And we thank you for being understanding of that. Despite that, we do have our chat on. I see Stephen, I see Pauline, I see Malcolm, Karumba, Efentes, John, welcome. Rest assured that our moderators will be on there getting your questions, so be sure you get those. We will log those. And after the entire session, we'll be sure to have a interactive Q&A. I'll invite the other Dr. Washira to just very briefly say hello, as Dr. Kagema said, before we move on.
Good morning from Washington, D.C. Good afternoon to everyone in Africa, and evening to everyone in the Far East. It's definitely a pleasure to be on board. Thank you so much. Welcome to day 2. We hope it will be filled with learning and opportunities for you to impact and grow your world as it comes to entrepreneurship. We have some good panelists lined up, a close friend of ours who Elizabeth will introduce here shortly, but mine is to just welcome you and ask you to be engaged. And if there's anything we can do to help you in your growth, in your entrepreneurship journey, please comment and let us know, and we will be more than happy to share those partnerships and links with you. Welcome once again.
Thank you, Dr. Washira. And one more thing, we will have, since this is a training, we will be uptaking attendance. So halfway through the session, we will drop a day 2 attendance form. Please take the 15 seconds to fill that out. Because we need to know, were you really on YouTube? I'm only guapo kando eating some namachoma, but you registered, right? This is a way for us to make sure that the certificate is reflective of that. So be tuned on that. So today, I am so excited. Today, our topic is on mentorship with the industry. And then we have our second topic later on. This first training session is on the value of mentorship. Our trainer is an individual, I will read his bio briefly, shortly, who has attained his success by intentionally navigating the globe in pursuit of education and hands-on life experiences. My friend, my country people, please, you need to get your pens, your notepads ready, because the salt that is about to drop in this forum is going to be good. Brian Kamau Dirango is passionate about the intersection of the natural environment and sustainable development, right? He is an environmental analyst at the World Bank, where he works on implementing the bank's environmental and social framework in investment projects. Previously, he worked as a groundwater pollution researcher in Canada, a geochemist in Qatar, and a water supply startup in South Sudan. I told you global. His education, he has a joint Masters of Science in Water Science and Environmental Engineering from UNESCO Netherlands, TU Dresden, Germany, and the Instituto Superior Portugal. 3 universities for a joint degree, and a bachelor's in chemical and biological engineering from New York University. I told you, global citizen, global scholar. So today we have this individual here. How did he get there? What did he do? I mean, what are his genetics makeup? Because we need those. John Crosby says, mentoring is a brain to pick, an ear to listen, and a push in the right direction. My friends, help me formally welcome Brian. And thank you, Brian, for allowing us today to pick your brain. Karibu sana, Brian.
Wow, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that wonderful, wonderful introduction. I was, at some point, I was wondering who we are all talking about here. But, when you put it that way, it does sound, amazing. And maybe part of what I'd like to do during this session is to sort of demystify my personal journey and see how I can connect with the youth who are listening in, and also see, what areas of advice and sharing that we can have together. So I've been asked to speak on this very interesting topic on mentorship, and what it means, what it has done in my life, how I view it, and how I can convince more young people to use this as an avenue to, as a launchpad in their career, in their lives, and going forward. So it's going to be a packed session. We'll discuss, we'll go through quite a number of things here. And maybe, I can just start, with a discussion of my personal journey. So right now I'm calling in from Toronto, Canada, where I've been for the last few months. But previously I was actually in Kenya for the last 6 months. But I am officially based in Washington, D.C. with the World Bank, as Elizabeth just mentioned. Interestingly, when I was in Kenya recently, I happened to get engaged, and my fiance is actually from not too far from Karatina. She's from Mokorine, so I'm very well familiar. Mokorine, Karatina, that area has amazing people, such as the ones that I'm talking to today. So so I just wanted to share that small piece of connection that I have with Karatina and the larger region. So I'll spend some time just talking about my personal journey, how it began, and see how that can be a platform to also inspire many of you who, are dreaming big, maybe even bigger than I was even dreaming when I was slightly younger, and, see how you can move from point A to point B and what role mentorship can play. So I come from a small town called Kikuyu. If you're familiar with, it's not too far from Nairobi, closer to areas of Thogoto, Ikambura. So that's where I was born and raised. Went to a small, well, not quite small primary school called Musagetao Primary School in the mission area of Kikuyu. And, soon after I went to high school, just, close by at Alliance High School. And I think, just reflecting a little bit on that jump, from primary to high school, it involved a lot of support, not just from my, family, but for my community as well. That belief that anyone can do it, anyone can make it to get to whatever position that you aspire to reach towards. And maybe I was lucky than most because at Musagetao, we have, lots of students who, from Alliance who came to as our Sunday school teachers, when you have sports and so on, they would show up. And, that also gave me some inspiration, when you meet these kids and, you just see that they're as ordinary as anybody else. And so that gives you some courage that, with a little bit of effort, you can get to some of these places. So after graduating, so I finished my high school in 2009, I believe, yes. And, in high school, so when I just joined, my goal is just to finish and go to university in Kenya. But interestingly, while talking to elder students in school and so on, I heard many of them talking about opportunities outside Kenya and so on. I'd never heard of them, and I got curious. You mean that I can expand my wings and go study somewhere else, discover a new country, and so on. So this sounded very, very appealing to me. And I'd have to say that the students who graduate in previous years, they also come back to school from various parts of the world, from America, from Canada, from Australia, different parts of Africa, South Africa, from Ghana, and so on. And they come up with all these interesting stories about how their lives have been outside their country. So, I also decided to give it a try. And that's how I ended up at New York University. And, I was very grateful that I got a full, scholarship. So these are financial-based scholarship, meaning that it doesn't matter how wealthy, how poor you are, as long as you qualify to get admitted, you get a full scholarship for your education. And I'm mentioning this because many people do not really know some of this small aspects that can actually change your life in such profound ways. And so that was one key thing for me. And throughout my undergraduate, ended up studying chemical engineering. Actually, for the first year of my undergraduate, I was a little bit lost, confused, in a foreign place. And so for a whole year, I was debating what exactly I want to study. So I'm sure there are many of you that I'm speaking to today who you could be in your first, second, third year. You could have just recently graduated, but you're not really sure where to start, and it's a challenge that we all face, and it's one that I faced as well. And I'll be touching a bit on some of these key aspects as I progress. So After graduating from college, actually, I got my first job through an internship program that colleague, connected me to. And that's how I ended up working in Qatar after I graduated. So I spent 2 years in Qatar after working there. And then a colleague shared some opportunities for master's program, also with full scholarship opportunities. And, I threw, my, my hat in the bag, and lo and behold, I was, also able to get that opportunities. And I think it's not as much as, you definitely have to be qualified for these things, but also believing in yourself so much, people encouraging you that you can get to these places. Sometimes you may want a certain opportunity, but it may seem to be very, very far out of reach. You wonder, wow, am I capable of doing this? But, when you think about it, you're the only person who can stop yourself from succeeding in this case. If you believe in yourself, you try 1,000 different things, and out of those, 2 or 3 will end up working. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many rejections you got, how many places you're not successful at, but the few that you actually succeed in will change your life, positively and in very profound ways. So I left my job and I took up this opportunity, and this was now in Europe. So as Elizabeth mentioned, this was a joint master's degree. Started off in Portugal, then in Netherlands, and finally in Germany. And in between that, I had an internship at the World Bank, and this is how I met David Bashir, a close friend now, and spent 2-3 months at the World Bank in Washington, D.C., and I loved the experience very much. And luckily, when I finally graduated, I joined the World Bank as a consultant, and then a few months later, got my full-time position here. So I am an environmental analyst. I look at the intersection of investments and the environment. And this is also not a field that you'll see several people going in as their first choice. Especially if you've got so many career options to choose from. You could go into finance, you go into right now the tech space. You could be as I said, an entrepreneur and so on. And I'll also speak a little bit about how my journey has changed and how I ended up in this really exciting field. So that's quick recap about myself. But as I've said, I will reflect more on how mentorship has played a key role in my personal journey. But I want to try something now. I will share my screen and see if we can do a few interactive things here. If it doesn't work, it's fine. But let's see how this goes. Okay, so on your screen, I hope you can see what I'm projecting. So it says, you can join me at slido.com. So this is a poll that we're going to do. Okay, so if you scan this QR code that you can see right here with your camera phone and so on, or you go to slido.com and then you put in the code 55100, then you'll be able to see the question that I'm projecting here. And I invite you to head to this link. And the question here is, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word mentorship? I just want to get an idea on, what you're thinking. I can see somebody has said support. I can keep this open as I continue speaking, and we'll see what comes out there. Okay, I can see cheerleader. Thank you for engaging. Continue. So I will, as this runs, I will just quickly share more on how mentorship has played a role in my personal life. So, as I think I've touched a little bit on how mentors in high school played a role in making me aware of opportunities. They did not have to, sit with me, study with me, but just being aware of certain opportunities that are out there is something in and of itself. And I found this to be quite important, not even just, at that stage, but even today. There's some things in my field that, somebody who's much older than me, more experienced in the field may know that I do not have an idea about. And this is one way in which mentorship has played a key role in my personal life. Okay, keep it coming. I can see professional guidance. I can see leader. I can see network. I can see a coach. Okay, great. Yeah. So, as I mentioned in my university life, one of the key people who played a major role in shaping what I decided to study was one of the staff who was working in the careers department. We struck a good friendship. And, despite, of course, thinking of what opportunities would be great for me. And at one point, she said, this is a great company, in Qatar that does a lot of work on, water supply. They also do oil and gas and so on. And, she asked me, do I want to try it out? She thought that, as a chemical engineer, it'd be nice to be in a place where, at the intersection of oil and gas and also water. And so that's how I ended up actually getting an internship with this oil and gas company based in Qatar, and which ended up being my first full-time job after graduation. Another key area I'd like to highlight in my personal life is when I joined this oil and gas company. It's called Schlumberger in Qatar. I started off in the water department, but my goal was to go into oil and gas, as a chemical engineer. But one of the people that I struck a close friendship with at work was, someone who had worked in the petroleum industry for over 30 years. And, through a series of talks, chats, discussions, and this was maybe over a year, he convinced me that, the world is moving renewable. We're heading towards more sustainability. We're looking at the environment in a way that we haven't done in the last 100 years or so. The climate is changing. And there'll be more opportunities, and you better be aligned in environment or in water, in a space that responds to the needs of this century. He plain blank told me that oil and gas will be here, but it may not have the same opportunities as we had in the previous generation. And that was quite interesting, because a few years later was when we had, this was around 2013, 2014 was when the oil markets started going down, and a lot of people lost their jobs and so on in the oil industry. But at that time, I'd already switched to water and so on. So my whole point here is that mentors make you aware of opportunities that you would not have previously known by yourself. So even in my current position right now, in fact, yesterday I received an application to be a mentee, to be mentored as part of my career. And this is just to show you that mentorship is an ongoing activity. You don't get to a certain position and you say, you're done being mentored, or you're done mentoring somebody else. No, it is continuous. It is a learning process. It is a way to get engaged and understand how the world works, and also a way for you to step up in the direction that you hope to head towards. So with that aspect, hopefully that you've been able to get an idea of how mentorship has played a role in my life. Thank you so much for responding to the survey. I can see guidance, I can see well-being, motivation, having a chaperone, a trainer, nurturing. Great. Thank you so much. So I will just stop sharing and just show you something else. But I'll keep the poll open so you can keep typing if you have the code 55100. And so what I'd like to talk more of today is I will just share one slide, and this is it. So we will be looking at 5 aspects of mentorship. One, is mentorship really that important? As I say, it is. Once I convince you that mentorship is important, we will look at what is mentorship and also what is not mentorship. I think that is quite important. How do I find a mentor? Once you're convinced, what it is, how do I find a mentor? How do I develop a relationship with a mentor that I've selected, and so on? And then once you understand all these things, what are some practical resources and places that you can look at, to learn more or to participate in structured mentorship programs and so on. So as we go on, just keep in mind, these are the things that I will be touching on slowly by slowly. Okay, so I've mentioned why mentorship is important to me. But I know many of you right now, you're either in first, second, third year, final year of undergraduate. Some of you are already working, or you're doing your master's, you're in graduate school, and so on. And you may be in a position where you're wondering, what next for me? I'm in Karatina University. I have studied business. I have studied, so many other different courses and so on, marketing, sales. And you're wondering, what can I do next with what I have studied? Like all students and all people who just recently graduated, we all have so much tension about the job market. We hear how difficult it is to get a job. You hear how life after school is very tough. And this can fill you with so much anxiety. But a mentor can be an amazing individual who can, encourage you through this journey. A good mentor can enhance your success, whether you're trying to be an innovator, an entrepreneur, or have a career as an employee in an organization. A good mentor can really enhance and bring out the best in you. They can help you to match job expectations. Most of us, will end up studying, say you studied computer science, but the program language, that you studied is very different from what industry uses. And mentors can really help you understand exactly what you need to do to be more competitive in the job market, for example, courses that you should be doing, programs you should be applying to, and so on. And so mentorship is also a really good platform for developing and nurturing your skills and character. Things like integrity, critical thinking, good communication, and other interpersonal skills. These are areas that a mentor can help you shape so that you become fuller, you grow more into yourself. And so when we come to defining mentorship, so what is a mentor? The way I look at it, a mentor is someone who you develop a relationship with to help you succeed in your career, your goals, and your different aspirations. Mentors are great in sharing advice based on their own experiences, and they can help you navigate a difficult situation. They can help you, they can make you aware of exciting new opportunities that you not have otherwise known. They can encourage you when you're going through difficult situations, difficult times through your life. And they can help you network. They can help you expand your network. You get to know one person who works, in a certain company, and they introduce you to 2, 3, 4 other people, and that will expand your network. And as David likes to say, your network is your net worth. So that is something a mentor can really help you with. Okay, so I would also like your participation in a second poll, and I will share it as well. Okay, it's the same code. Let me see what question. Okay, so I just want to get an idea of what you'd like mentorship for in your life right now. So I'd like, as I talk to you about, reasons for getting a mentor, I'd like to know what it is that you're looking for in a mentor right now. As I said, okay, I can see, people sharing, okay, starting and scaling a business, learning about different career paths, okay, advancing your studies as well. So, I could touch on something about starting and scaling a business. A few years ago, I had a very close friend who was interested in working in the textile industry. They were interested in starting a company in Kenya that manufactures textiles. And I helped them, they reached out to me and, asked, how can I, help them achieve this grand goal. And it was quite interesting for me because I've never been in the textile industry, but by just going through my LinkedIn contacts, I was able to understand who are some amazing players in Africa who have done great things in the textile industry. You think about sustainable sourcing, you think about fair trade and so on. I was able to connect my friend with some of these people who started similar ventures in other countries. I was able to connect them with people who have financing sources in the US. In this case, it was Texas, and also local entrepreneurs who are working on textiles in Kenya, many of them in the EPZs and so on. So this was, my own personal reason, when I think of why you need a mentor. Okay, I can see, thank you for engaging. Most are interested in starting and scaling a business, advancing your studies. I can see also learning about various career paths. Okay, starting and scaling a business seems to be one of the areas that people are really interested in. Okay, thank you for letting me know. Okay, you can continue providing responses, but I'll stop sharing the poll on screen. Okay, so these are some of the areas that you can get mentorship in. So if you're thinking of how to start a business, this is not an easy endeavor. You need to, someone to encourage you in that journey, to tell you or to guide you through the technical aspects. How do you create a good business pitch? What is a minimum viable product? How do I pitch to an investor? Once I receive funding, how do I scale my business? And these are all very tricky aspects. And, if you want to get them right, definitely mentors are some of the really great individuals that you would want to surround yourself with. This could be local mentors, and in our world right now, it can also be online. Just speaking a little bit on, so how, what would you be looking for in terms of the ideal qualities in a mentor? Of course, it could be someone that you admire in your community, in your workplace. This could be someone who you'd want to emulate in terms of, career and business opportunities. Someone that you can also identify with. Maybe their own personal journey has really motivated you, and you see something in them that you'd like to become, and they can understand your personal struggles. So this is something that a mentor can really help you in. But also, before I proceed, maybe I can also clarify what mentorship is not. A lot of people think that a mentor would be there, for example, to help you look for a job, to get an opportunity to review your CV and so on. This could be the case, but there's a big difference, between a mentor, a sponsor, and a coach, And so in this case, just remember that a mentor is there to guide you, to help you, to nurture you, to encourage you, but it is not essentially someone who you contact to say, I would like to get a job, or, can you forward me job opportunities? And you also have something to offer. Mentorship is two-way. It's a two-way relationship. It should not only be transactional. It's not about contacting your mentor when you need something. It's not about asking them to do things for you. Always know that even as a mentee, you have something that you can offer to someone who's mentoring you. It could be, you're younger and you have a different perspective on maybe if it's in the business world, more tools, very different ways of engaging people that they may not be aware of. So this is something that you can also offer your mentor. But the biggest way that you can thank your mentor is by making use of the advice that you receive. There have been a lot of people, who were very good mentors. They set aside time to get mentored and so on. But if you do not act on the advice that you receive, then the mentor does not feel that they're being impactful in your life. So the biggest way to thank and show appreciation to your mentor is really by putting what they advise you into practice. So also remember that you too can be a mentor. You don't have to look at yourself as a mentee. You also have something to offer to someone younger than you. Maybe there is someone who, if you're just finishing college and so on, maybe there is someone who is much younger who needs advice to get to where you are today. We also have something great that we can offer. So also look at yourself as a mentor, and by developing this kind of relationship, you also help yourself by progressing, by surrounding yourself with people who've got different, fresh ideas that you can also take up in your own life. So in terms of finding a mentor, how would you go about it? I would largely say it can be formal or also informal. So formal, you can think of, going for conferences, like this one that we're in right now, maybe different types of talks. For example, there are also professional associations, if you're an accountant, if you're an engineer, if you're an architect, and so on. There are all these associations that you can join that can help you network with people in your own professional field. I have attended so many talks in Nairobi where I've met, my goal was to go and listen to a topic that I'm excited about, but I end up, meeting very great entrepreneurs. Recently, I met maybe 4 or 5 who frequently feature in, Kenya's top 40 under 40. And this was not even by design. I just attended a seminar and they're happy to speak, and I asked questions, and I met them afterwards. We had coffee later on. And, I still keep in touch with some of them. And so by putting yourself out there, by, attending events that you're passionate about, by, being vulnerable and asking questions and seeking guidance and being very honest about it, these are some of the great ways that you can find mentors. In our world right now, especially as young people, we like, online platforms and so on. And even with the pandemic right now, it's not possible to attend these kind of events. Online methods also work very well. This could be something as easy as getting someone's email and reaching out to them. It could also be something that we all know, which is LinkedIn. I hope everyone here who's listening to me has at least a professional LinkedIn profile. And this can be a great avenue to reach out to people in companies that you admire. Say you want to work with, a great upcoming tech company in Nairobi. You can always Google who works in these companies. Go to LinkedIn, and then you can always reach out to them to see if they can mentor you in any particular way. So also volunteering opportunities. You may have heard of places like Rotary International, where it brings people together from professional people together, and you can share and learn from them. And this is also a great avenue to get mentors. So once you see, you've put your eye on a certain mentor, how do you approach them? Some of them may be, very important people in society, others, people you admire, and so on. But as I said before, we all know you miss 100% of the shots that you do not take. So, you can kindly reach out to someone that you think can be a great mentor, explain to them a bit about yourself, tell them what you need mentorship in, be very clear on the aspects in your life that you want mentorship. In terms of starting a business, is it that you have ideas and you're looking for ways to implement them? Is it that you're trying to understand the market? Is it that you're trying to understand how can I get a great co-founder? How can I raise funds? How can I keep going when it's very difficult? You can always get someone who has started a company or 2 or 10, and they can really guide you on this. But you have to be very clear on what you're looking for. Also, ask them if they're available, if they're interested, because some of them may be quite busy. And don't take no as something disheartening. They can also refer you to some of their friends who have space to mentor you and so on. And remember, this is very key. Remember that you drive the mentorship relationship. It is not the mentor who reaches out to you. It's not the mentor who checks up on you. It's you to tell your mentor, what do you need in your business to advance your studies? Are you looking for scholarship opportunities? You are the one to highlight these questions to your mentor, and they can help you and guide you. So remember, you're in the driving seat. So I think I would just share one last thing and maybe pass it on back to Elizabeth, which is what are some of the practical areas that you can get mentorship in. So these are some of the ones that I know. So you may have heard, for example, of Akili Dada, and they do a lot of mentorship with girls in different communities and so on. There's Mowgli Foundation it was originally based in the Middle East, and now the founder has opened up more opportunities in Kenya, mostly on social entrepreneurship, seminars and so on. You've got One Girl Can, they do a lot of university mentorship programs, scholarship opportunities and so on. You've got Ada Africa that does mentorship for people interested in careers that have a lot to do with research. You've got, as I said, Rotary International, that is a volunteering opportunity, but you find so many professional people who you can engage with in this. There's Kamilimu, which may be also quite relevant, and I would encourage you to have a look. It's a nonprofit organization that does a structured, I think, 8-month internship for computer science students in universities in Kenya, and I think it's completely free. So these are some of the great opportunities that you can look at. There's also Winter, which I think recently partnered with Microsoft in Kenya, and this is geared toward female entrepreneurs, women in technology, and so on. So resources exist. I would encourage you to do a quick Google search to see what is out there, and this can actually propel your life to the next level. Maybe as my final remarks, so just urge all those listening to reflect on your life, get the key aspects in your life that need mentorship. Write down which of these challenges can a mentor help you in. Spend some time and research who would be a good mentor for you. Think of how to approach them. Remember that this is a relationship, and drive the conversation. And finally, everyone is better off with a mentor, and you deserve to have a mentor in your life to guide you, to help you understand our future opportunities. And you'll see that it'll really help your life in a tremendous way. So thank you so much for this chance to speak to all of you. I hope this was useful in some way, and I'd perhaps pass the ball back to Elizabeth. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. That was definitely an enlightening topic, and seeing some of the messages on here. And thank you to all that are tuning in again. Brian shared with us why mentorship is important, how to find mentors, and how to align those with your goals and the importance of us driving those. Before we move on to our second topic with Dr. Kellen, just want to cater to some questions on there. Keep the questions on the sessions coming. We will have an interactive Q&A at the very end. As I mentioned earlier, there is a daily attendance form, and that is already on the video description, right? But it will go live during the Q&A session. So you can get to it, but it is not live until the Q&A session. Again, the attendance intake form is on the video description, but we will drop the link, but it does not go live until the Q&A session. Without further ado, we need to move on to our next topic, which is the identification of business opportunities, packaging ideas into commercial opportunities. As an entrepreneur by nature, you must not only be innovative, but you must be able to share those ideas with those that can help bring them to life and generate income at the end of the day, right? So our next session focuses on just that. And I'm going to read the bio of our next trainee, and reading it, I was like, Elizabeth, see your life. All you're doing is eating and sleeping. You need to do more with your life. I am truly excited to read Dr. Kellen's bio. She is from Karatina University. She has a background in business administration at the PhD level and an MBA as well. She has multiple grant-winning, listen to that, grant-winning social scientist. She's a fellow at the African Leadership Institute and a DAAD alumni. She's a beneficiary of numerous scholarships across the globe. To mention a few, DIES programs, Tony Elumelu Foundation, Mashab Israel Fellowship Program, Volkswagen Foundation. I mean, guys, the list goes on and on and on. She's an engaged researcher and a strategy consultant with over 15 years of experience. She has numerous certifications: HR consultant, HR practitioner, competency mapping, psychometric assessor. Ladies and gentlemen, she is just the quintessential person to talk to us about opportunities. And Richard Branson says this: business opportunities are like buses. There's always one coming, But today, Dr. Kellen is going to talk to us about finding the bus stop, finding the stage where these buses are located, and making sure that we have the boarding ticket that will get us to where we want to go to get those commercial opportunities. With that, please help me welcome Dr. Kellen Kiambati. Dr. Kellen, most welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Elizabeth, for those your kind, very kind words and introduction. I really appreciate. And first, before I make my presentation, I want to thank my predecessor, Kamau, for your very nice presentation. You have set the stage for us. And before I make my presentation, allow me to share the screen so that we are able to engage while people are seeing what we are presenting. Yes. I hope you can see my screen, Dr. Elizabeth. Yeah, thank you very much. Let me stop my video so that my internet does not fluctuate so much as I make my presentation. Yeah. So this evening, I have been asked to make a very short presentation by the organizer of the program on packaging ideas into commercial opportunities. And before I do that, it's necessary for me to try and do a connect with Kamau's presentation. So Kamau has been able to show us that as young people, as mentors out there, when as young mentees out there, when mentors meet you, they must find you somewhere. They must find you at least having made some few steps into exactly what you have decided to become in your entrepreneurship journey. And for that reason, I am starting this presentation as a way of setting stage. The next 3 days, other presenters will present to you exactly how you're supposed to prepare yourself. For me, my role this evening is to just introduce you, like Dr. Elizabeth has said, to how you package your ideas into commercial activities, even as you wait to meet your mentors. So then, before we start this whole idea of packaging your ideas, it is important for us to understand a few concepts and exactly what they mean in as far as packaging our ideas into commercial outfits are concerned. So who exactly packages these ideas? The ideas are packaged by people who are either entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs. So then, who is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is someone who finds new ways to create and capture value in the world around their space. And as they are finding new ways to create and capture value, in the process, they end up creating a company or an enterprise. So therefore, as you listen to these presentations today and the remaining part of the week, look at yourself and the space where you are and start asking yourself, how can you create value around the space in the world where you are? So then, if entrepreneurs are people who create value around their space, how exactly does this happen? How do they find those new ways of creating value, or how do they decide where to create value? As a potential entrepreneur or even an upcoming entrepreneur, you have to be alive to what is happening in your space to identify problems. And we are saying a problem is some issue that matters so much to a customer that they will spend money on it. Because remember, as an entrepreneur, you are looking to make money. You are not conducting business for the sake of conducting it, even if it is social entrepreneurship. Somehow there has to be returns. So then we are saying the problem that you identify, it must be convincing enough to allow customers spend money on it so that you can make returns. So then when you identify this problem, the next thing that you need to remember as we start this conversation is that you have to provide a solution to this problem. And a solution is anything that solves a customer's problem. So if you're planning to become an entrepreneur and you have an idea, you need to ask yourself, is this idea providing a solution or solving a problem to a particular customer? And as all these definitions and as we prepare ourselves on how to package ideas, it is important for us to take note of one thing, the issue of assumptions. As an upcoming entrepreneur or a potential entrepreneur, you have to be smart. And we are saying smart entrepreneurs create their businesses on assumptions. There is no business that exists in the world without assumptions, because the assumptions, you keep testing them as you move on so that they help you to improve your solution. So as we package these ideas, and as I take you through in the next slide on how to package your ideas, it is important for you to remember those 4 key concepts: who an entrepreneur is, the problem, the solution, and that you must always remember there are assumptions that you make as you move on with this entrepreneurship journey. So then, coming to the real topic that we are discussing today, these ideas that we are packaging, where do they come from? Where do we identify these business ideas? Every time I meet young people, the first thing they ask me, those that are planning to start the entrepreneurship journey, is where do we find these unique business ideas that can help us make returns and make money? So before I unpack what we have, let's take the next 1 minute to discuss on our chat function. Where do you think are the sources of business ideas? Or for example, if you're starting your business today, where are you likely to find your business ideas? Let's share on our chat function some of the sources of business ideas. I'll stop share so that I see some of the sources of business ideas. If you set out to start a business today, where would you source for a business idea to start? The obvious ones, we all know the obvious ones also, yeah. Please post on the chat some of the areas you can source your business ideas.
Somebody said hobbies or journals.
Excellent. Some of your hobbies that you love doing. Excellent. Thank you very much, Dr. Elizabeth. Any other? Okay, you can keep them coming. I will move back to my slide.
Newspaper and surveys.
Yes.
Brainstorming with your peers. Focusing on the SDGs, current trends, struggles in our lives today, where people live, are some of those.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Elizabeth. I really like those ideas, especially the struggles in our lives today, because the struggles in our lives today is what pushes us to look for solutions as entrepreneurs. And as we look for solutions, it's possible for us to convert those solutions into businesses. So then, there are quite a number of areas that we can source ideas. But for the purposes of this training, we will discuss 2 of them. The first source of business ideas is what we call institutional voids, what is missing in particular institutional setups, and then the problems in the society. And I am sure the first question someone is asking is, what is an institutional void? When you look at ourselves in this side of the world, the emerging economies, most of our institutions are, or one of the characteristics of our institutions is that they are full of institutional voids. And an institutional void, very fundamentally speaking, is something that is missing. It is a situation where, as a potential entrepreneur, you look at it, decide you are a creative person and say, something is missing in this particular environment. And because it is missing, I have to find a solution. In the process of finding that solution, you come up with something that is solving someone's problem, and you convert it into an entrepreneurial venture. So we are saying institutional voids, and there are so many, and I'll provide examples in my next slide, is one of the areas that we can find entrepreneurial ideas. However, for us to be able to identify entrepreneurial ideas from our institutional voids, one has to have an attitude of an entrepreneur. You have to walk around asking yourself, what solutions can I offer where something is missing? Rather than complaining, what can I offer, and convert that solution into something entrepreneurial. So we are saying it is an act of creatively solving a problem that matters to a large group of people. An institutional void cannot be converted into something entrepreneurial if it is providing a solution to one or two people. It has to provide a solution to a huge number of people so that it becomes something entrepreneurial. So then, we are saying that institutional voids are a site for entrepreneurial opportunity, especially in the emerging economies. And that once entrepreneurs have identified a particular void, the question is, how then do we address these particular institutional voids? And I will give examples of institutional voids in our Kenyan setup. Health data is one area that has a huge institutional void in this country. You remember in the year 2019, we had a case at Kenyatta National Hospital where one of the doctors operated on the wrong patient. And when I saw that breaking news on our TV stations, I asked myself, what would someone have done to ensure that we do not have wrong patients operated on in future? So health data is one of the institutional voids that we as entrepreneurs perhaps can come up with an app that has all the records of all the patients, so that when a doctor is carrying out a surgery, all they need to do is to probably tap, feed in your ID number, and they have all your data in one particular location. And it's possible for us as entrepreneurs to turn that into an enterprise, charge low prices where everybody can afford and make some returns. The other area where it's possible to find institutional voids in our country in Kenya is immigration. I remember still again, I think in 2019, every time I would be in town quite early in the morning, I would find people queuing as early as 4 a.m. to apply for passport. And with my entrepreneurial attitude, I asked myself, is it possible for someone to find a solution where people can apply for passports and actually receive them through courier from where they are seated? Of course, someone will say, e-citizen, it's possible to do that. However, you realize that e-citizen does not offer end-to-end solution. Yes, you fill the forms. However, at some point, you have to print them hard copies and deliver them for signature and other processes. Therefore, as entrepreneurs, this is one of the institutional void areas where you can look for an opportunity to convert that into an enterprise. Food insecurity in this country, we all know that from the month of August all the way to October, we are always seeing pleas on TV for people asking for help because of food insecurity. Israel is one of the countries that is largely a desert country. However, they are able to produce food to feed their population and even export some. So the question we should be asking as entrepreneurs, what opportunities are there in this particular sector of food insecurity, the void that is there? How can we convert it into an enterprise? And finally, the last example of an institutional void where we can find ideas for entrepreneurship is the issue of insurance fraud. This is very rampant in this country. How can someone come up with an innovative solution to authenticate insurance claims so that we do not have the kind of issues that we have in the insurance industry? So in short, we are saying institutional voids is one of the areas that we can use to identify entrepreneurial ideas and package them into enterprises, and great enterprises for that matter. So then I'm sure someone is asking, yes, these are very nice ideas, but do we have success stories internationally and locally? Yes, of course, we have very many success stories. I will start with a few examples of international success stories where people identified institutional voids and turned them into great entrepreneurial opportunities. There is someone from India who is called Shafi, and he identified an institutional void in the public health system where people in very remote areas were not able to receive proper health care because of poor roads and remote areas, poor telecommunication, poor infrastructure. And therefore what he did, he came up with something he's calling Dial 1298 ambulance services. And it turned out to be a very, very famous entrepreneurial opportunity in India. You can read more about it, which is saving lives in the rural parts of India. And he was able to solve that problem, and he turned it into an entrepreneurial opportunity that is affordable to almost all rural people in India. Then in China, this is what is called Taobao villages. I'm sure some of us must have used it in one way or another. Is a platform that allows people to engage, individuals and businesses to engage in transactions online, to buy and sell. And the person who came up with this who turned this into an entrepreneurial opportunity was a student in the US. And he realized that people in rural areas in China were not able to trade at a low cost because of the transport cost, the transaction cost of payment, and all those other issues. And he came up with this Taobao village in China, which is employing so many youth, and he turned it into a very, very great entrepreneurial opportunity. And then, of course, the last one, the Great ADMI movement on fighting corruption is also a very great example in India, where this particular great man identified institutional voids in terms of fighting corruption in India. And he started this movement, he turned it into an entrepreneurial opportunity where everyone in rural setups in India was able to register into this movement using an app, paying very little money, and he utilized the economies of scale, and he was able to turn this into a successful entrepreneurial opportunity. So internationally, we have success stories of how we can turn institutional voids into entrepreneurial opportunities. Then, of course, locally, someone must be asking, do we have success stories in Africa? Yes, of course, we have success stories in Africa. We have a young man from Ghana who is almost taking Africa by storm. He is using marine waste to provide housing, affordable housing. He's using marine waste, plastic waste, and turning them into construction tiles, plastic pavement blocks, which are 30% cheaper than the cement that people buy from cement industries. So he's not only converting this into an entrepreneurial opportunity, he is also helping to conserve the environment. And he has received a lot of support from UNDP because of converting a void where the government is not able to take care of waste management, marine waste management, and converting it into an entrepreneurial opportunity. So it's possible for us in Africa to also do this. Then we have another success story in Africa. We have a group of young people through a platform called Ebafosa that is supported by UNDP. They identified this particular issue of aflatoxin in some of the foods that are sold in African markets. And they came up with solar dryers fabricated by young people. They have formed a team, and they're using those solar dryers to dry produce for farmers at a fee, of course, an affordable fee. So they found that particular institutional void, and they were able to convert it into an entrepreneurial opportunity. Of course, here locally in Kenya, I'm sure those from Kenya, you must have seen on TV, this was there during early this year, the young girl who went to study in the US, and when she came back during the COVID season, she was able to convert to help people in Turkana to do large-scale farming using hydroponics. And when I saw her being interviewed, she said that she's planning to upscale that particular hydroponic farming and ensure that all arid areas in Kenya use the hydroponic farming to address the issue of food insecurity in Kenya. Rather than saying Serikali's idea, she is identified an institutional void and turned that void into an entrepreneurial opportunity. And she is doing that. And so many other examples locally that we can use. So then the next question is, what are some of the examples where young people who are planning to take up on this entrepreneurial journey can tap into in terms of converting institutional voids into entrepreneurial opportunities? I have a few examples here just to kickstart you and to show you that it is possible. Recently, we had an expose on Citizen TV where they were able to expose some of the supermarkets in Kenya that were alleged to be selling food that was laced with chemicals. And for me, the institutional void there is that we as customers in these retail markets, we have no way of actually verifying whether the food is laced or is not laced. And therefore, this is one area where you as young people, you can convert that institutional void into an entrepreneurial opportunity and actually maybe come up with an app where someone can send an instant SMS, receive, working in collaboration with KEBS, and receive a confirmation of whether the food has been tested and cleared for human consumption. The other area that there is an institutional void that can be turned into an entrepreneurial opportunity in Kenya is the area of health insurance and service providers. Every day we see complaints where people accuse, insurance companies accuse health service providers of exaggerating cost of treatment or cost for treatment. You can come up with an innovative solution of how people can actually authenticate the cost of that treatment and fill that institutional void and convert it into an entrepreneurial opportunity. And issues around telemedicine and so many other issues. We keep complaining about voter registration in Kenya, music copyright, where musicians are complaining about the returns from their music, defective medical supplies to the market. And this is a problem across all African countries, even for the people following outside Kenya. We can identify these institutional voids and turn them into entrepreneurial opportunities. Remember, we are identifying ideas to commercialize them and create great enterprises. So those are some of the areas we can identify ideas for entrepreneurship. Then finally, the second source, how we can identify ideas is problems in the society. You remember in our slide 1, we defined what a problem is. And we said that a problem is some issue that matters so much to a customer that they will spend money to deal with it. So as entrepreneurs, if we are able to identify these problems that are ailing our customers or potential customers and provide a solution, then that is a very possible area for us to identify entrepreneurial opportunities. The tendency is for us to actually find solutions, come with solutions, and then try to fit those solutions into customers' problems. We are saying no. We have to first deal with the problems, clearly understand what the problem is, and after you have clearly understood the problem, then you come up with a solution. Solution that is unique, because remember, as an entrepreneur who is packaging ideas for commercialization, you are not the only entrepreneur out there. There are quite a number of others. And therefore, it is important for you to ensure that you're unique in terms of the solution that you're providing. How do you ensure that you are unique? When you identify the real problem, as opposed to dealing with symptoms. Most of the times, as entrepreneurs, we come up with solutions and then force those solutions into our customers. So the beginning point is the problem and then the solution to our customers. And there are so many techniques and templates and worksheets that are used to help upcoming entrepreneurs to identify these real problems. So as you come with a solution, you are assured it is a solution that the customer is willing to spend money. So then, once we are so clear about the ideas, we have packaged them, we have seen that they are viable, we've tested them through our mentors that Kamau talked about in our session 1. Our mentors have helped us to package them very well. We now move to the next step of how we commercialize them. And to commercialize these ideas, we pass through a number of steps. First, if you are a startup, an upcoming entrepreneur, you have to start the process of registration of your company. Most of the times when we are registering companies, you are not registering them as an individual. You have to come up with partners, like-minded people who are thinking the same way as you are, and package yourselves into a company, register that company through the processes of registration. And once all the processes of registration of the company in this, with the state law office, you have your PIN number with Kenya Revenue Authority, you have put all the documentations in place, and you're sure you've tested your idea, you are ready for commercialization of ideas. So in conclusion, we are saying there are those two very important sources of ideas: institutional voids, and you've seen their success stories of how people have identified institutional voids and converted them into entrepreneurial opportunities. And secondly, the issue of identifying the real problem as opposed to symptoms and ensuring that those problems, you provide solutions to those problems. You provide solutions that a customer will be willing to spend money to have that your solution. And after that, you do the documentation through the state law office, through the Kenya Revenue Authority, and get ready to start your enterprise. So I will stop sharing so that I check. I'm seeing there are questions coming through. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Those are comments, not questions. Therefore, Dr. Elizabeth, you can tell us whether we have questions on you.
Yes, thank you for that, Dr. Kellen. We will have a Q&A session briefly after this, so that Dr. Moshina will be overseeing. So we will definitely get those questions to you. But let me say thank you so much for that forum. Based on the feedback on the YouTube chat, it has truly been engaging. My takeaway: convert an institutional void into an entrepreneurship opportunity. And you may be sitting there thinking, my ideas are not the biggest or the greatest. Well, the Dalai Lama says this: if you think you are too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. So don't let the size of your impact or idea limit you. Another quote, I love quotes: the size of an idea does not matter. It is whether that idea develops into something tangible and beneficial to society. That is a Talks with E quote by none other than myself. So do not let the sizes of your ideas limit you, or the scope of that, fill that institutional void. Some updates before I turn over the floor to Dr. Moshina. We will compile and share the takeaways and the notes that our trainees have shared after the forum. We have 3 more days of this, so please rest assured that after that we are gathering those. We are also taking notes on the background, and we will be sharing those with you to the email that you registered with. And with that, as I mentioned, we do have a daily intake form, and that form is officially live. Again, that form is officially live, and it will be dropping on the chat box in just a little bit. But you can also access this form on the video description link, so that way we can make sure we get your attendance and some takeaways from you. Again, that is live. And without further ado, we have questions. Yes, we do. So Dr. Moshina, allow me to turn over this forum over to you. Thank you so much.
So thank you very much, Dr. Elizabeth. Thank you, presenters. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Dr. Kellen. Those presentations were wow. So we move on to the questions. Lots of questions which our panelists are going to be able to respond to. So the first set of questions are from the mentorship presentation. So a question to Brian goes: does age matter when picking a mentor for oneself? Or we could ask, can one be mentored by someone who is younger than them? So Brian, you could take up the question and then we will have the rest coming to you.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good question. So age and picking a mentor. So, okay, in terms of getting a mentor who's younger than you, this could be, for example, in a case where if the person who is younger has experience in an area that you do not have, because I could be older and but someone younger has, say, has started a successful venture. So they are younger in years, but they have a certain skill set and experience that you do not have. So in those kind of cases, you could get someone who is younger to be your mentor. So although traditionally you have your mentors are usually older than you, and I think this is also because older would mean better experience. They've gone through certain aspects that you have not, and they're able to offer guidance. So the key focus here is who is best placed to give you guidance, attention, and forge that relationship with. It just happens that most of them will be someone who's older than you. But if you have someone who's younger, but they're more experienced in a certain field, then I think also they can serve as good mentors.
So thank you very much, Brian, for that excellent. Oh, sorry for that. I think I need to go again. So thank you, Brian, for that answer. I think the person who had asked the question has gotten it loud and clear, well understood. So still on the relationship between mentor and mentee, one of the participants is asking, what about gender when it comes to mentorship? And then they continue to say, are people really willing to mentor others? I think, personally, I think it sounds good in theory. So what is your take on this, Brian?
Okay, so gender, maybe you'd answer it in different ways, or the person can elaborate what exactly they mean by gender. So one, of course, depending on what your needs are, you could have a mentor of the same gender, for instance. This means that this is someone who, for example, I've shown you an example of women's only mentorship program. And this kind of programs also, or being mentored by someone who's the same gender, both men and so on, it's also fine because if there are certain challenges that you face because of your gender, and you can use example of women, if they face certain barriers to entry, if people don't take you seriously as an entrepreneur because you're a woman, then you may want to be in a group or being mentored by a group that specifically addresses the needs that are suitable to you, and also things that affect you. And so in those kind of cases, you could have a mentor who is the same gender as you, but also if you're more comfortable with someone of your gender, then that is also fine in terms of being mentored. So in terms of mentorship sounding good in theory, the problem here is that also mentors do not have a good understanding of what the relationship between a mentor and a mentee should be. And now that I've sort of shared a few ideas on how to structure a mentorship program, how to reach out to someone, then I think as a mentee, when you reach out to somebody, you can explain to them what you really want to get out of this. You can just tell them this is not one call and then it all ends there. You want a continuous nurturing relationship. You say what you're willing to give as well, how they can also benefit. And by looking at that angle where you try and change your mentor's mind to just understand what you're looking for, that can really make mentorship more useful. And I think also you need to know how to best match with somebody. So as I said, you could ask 10 different people to be your mentor. Some will say no, some will not be very good, but it's the same way that you apply for other things. You need someone who you match well with. So I think it's also, as such, it's a process. Sometimes it comes informally through friends, family, through your hobbies and so on. And so there are different ways of getting a mentor, but the key is to really search and get one that suits you and serves you well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for those remarkable points. Now, very closely to what you've just said in your last sentence, there's a question here from a participant who wants to know how many mentors they can have and what exactly happens if the mentors are pointing you to different directions. How do you deal with that? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so definitely you can have more than one mentor. I know this, for example, you have different areas that you'd like to be mentored in. So one could have a focus on succeeding as an entrepreneur, someone who's gone through the journey and can help you. But you may want to have another mentor who helps you understand how to, navigate other parts of your, for example, personal life and how that relates to your career as well. So you could have different mentors for different aspects of your life. And of course, one mentor may not be suitable to serve all areas of your life. So in this case, it is okay to have different mentors. But when it comes to having more than one mentor in the same sort of area, you're right. Different people have different journeys, and therefore they'll have different opinions on, what would be an advice on how you can best proceed. In such cases, I would first ask you why do you feel the need to have different mentors for the same aspect? Is it that you value diversity of thought? Is it that they both complement each other in certain ways? But ultimately, remember that mentors, they give advice, they give assistance, they do not tell you what to do. Ultimately, that decision lies within you. So at the end of the day, just remember, of course, you'll get different conflicting advice from different people at some point. And if that happens, just remember that they are giving their opinion. This is what they suggest. But ultimately, it's up to you to see how best to take up their advice. Thank you.
Dr. Mushin, are you there?
Sorry, sorry, I had my microphone muted. Sorry, thank you for the responses, Brian. So closely to whatever you're pointing us to, I think as you explained your answers to the other questions you mentioned briefly on the strategies that you could use to reach out a mentor, could you firm it up for these particular participants who wants exactly to know what, if there are any three, maybe strategies that they could use? Yeah, Brian.
Okay. So I briefly touched on this as I was presenting. So I would say, one, look at your form, look at some formal mechanism. So you could look at, for example, if you're graduating as an engineer, there's always an engineering society or an engineering board, and they may have events that you can attend and then network. You could go to conferences. This also has a lot of different people who can complement you in different ways. You could go for if your field of work is in business. Of course, there are also several conferences that you can attend, several hackathons you can attend, incubation programs that you can attend, iLab and so many others also in Nairobi as well. Also, you can look at online platforms. So I have personally found LinkedIn to be quite good, both for people seeking entrepreneurial ideas, trying to connect with founders of different companies. So this could be a great avenue to connect and approach a mentor. So thank you.
Dr. Mashina, you may be muted.
Sorry for that, listeners. There's one participant, Tony Olela, who says they want a personal mentor. The interest is innovation and entrepreneurship. They're asking whether they can be linked to one. Even as I wait for your answer, I know this is something we can do as part of the action post the training period. And then someone else is asking, do skills only matter when it comes to entrepreneurship? So Brian, what is your take on this? As this, I would also want Dr. Kellen to respond to that. So let's hear you, Brian, first.
So I'd break down skills, of course, to hard and soft skills. So hard meaning that you're able to understand the field that you're trying to innovate in, right? So if you have a background in computer science, or if you're an understanding of supply chain, or some of the other examples that Dr. Kellen has kindly shared with us, then of course, this kind of skills do definitely matter when you're looking at entrepreneurship. But I think at the same time, some of the soft skills become even more important. Do you have grit? Are you able to persevere? Are you resilient in what you're trying to innovate? Because the journey is never easy, and we have read about this, but living through it is something entirely different. And some of the soft skills, are you able to communicate your ideas well? Are you convincing enough? Do you know how to assemble the right team? So this kind of ideas, make me believe that it is not just the hard skills, what you are good technically. It is also the soft skills. And when you're picking, for instance, co-founders, you always look for someone who can complement your skills, because you may not have it all, but you can get someone who complements you in a way that advances ideas that you're both trying to create. But I'll let Dr. Helen take give her opinion on this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kellen, what's your take?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Mushina, and thank you, Dr. Kamau, for your response. I mean, you are so spot on, especially on issues of hard skills. Perhaps the only thing I'll mention is on soft skills. When someone is starting a mentorship program, part of the first things that happen is what we call self-assessment. And in the self-assessment, you're able to identify your areas of strength and areas of weaknesses. And it is out of those areas of weaknesses that you actually identify other people that can complement that area. So that if you are a tech person, maybe in ICT, and probably you're not very good in marketing, communication, persuading people, you look for a partner who can actually partner with you as you come up with this innovation and complement in those areas. So issues of undertaking self-assessment, identifying your weak areas, and finding someone who can complement your skills is very critical. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kellen, for that very understandable answer. Now we go to questions specifically on packaging ideas into commercial activities. The first one is a rather mouthful, but I'll take a go to it. So this participant says food security is very rampant in our country. Hence, we can integrate the issues of hunger to sustainable development in the context, hence, how can we integrate the issues of hunger to sustainable development in the context of mentorship of our youths in the global entrepreneurship? And they are also thinking about the void on health data, the void of insecurity, they are such as expired foods, Yeah, and things like that. So Dr. Kellen, let's have your take on this.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Moshina. Thank you for that very nice question on the issue of food security and sustainable development. It's actually not possible to have sustainable development if people are suffering from hunger. So for me, this is a very ripe area for us to integrate in terms of identifying young people that can come up with innovative ideas that can help in solving the issue of food insecurity. Like the young person who is doing, actually she's, I think, 26 years, and she's actually turning around through Kana County in terms of matters food security. So you may not be able to do it as a one person, one young person, but you can form a formidable team considering the issues that Kamau has explained to us. You consider your skills, what you require for you to probably introduce something like hydroponics in those arid and semi-arid areas. Find the skills that you require, find yourself the partners who will complement those skills, and come up with a formidable team that can actually help address the issue of food insecurity. So for me, food insecurity is not, sustainable development is not possible when people are not food secure. So this is a very ripe area. And you also realize that it is one of the areas that development partners are really supporting. So if you have an innovative idea in that area, development partners are really interested in this area. And also it is one of our priority agendas in the government of Kenya that is pursuing. So it's an area that one can actually form very innovative ideas and integrate it with all other similar or closely related agendas that our development partners are doing, so that you can pull the resources together, you can synergize and provide innovative solutions.
Thank you, Dr. Kellen, for that response. And now another question is on the scalability of the business idea, and the participant wants you to expound on how scalability plays an integral role in packaging an idea into a commercial viable business. So your take on this, Dr.
Thank you very much. In fact, scalability is one of the issues that you will have to consider when you're carrying out assessment of your idea. Because if an idea cannot be scalable, then it means that once you solve a problem for a particular group of people, you're out of business. So for me, the ability to scale up, to expand, to address huge population that is looking for the same solution is very key and very integral in your entrepreneurial opportunities. And we have a topic in the remaining 3 days where we will have someone discussing the issue of scalability. So I would encourage the participant who has asked that question to ensure that they attend the remaining sessions, because we'll have a session on how we address the issue of scalability.
So last but not least, there is a participant who believes that right now the market is controlled by producer sovereignty, and how can we as consumers regain our sovereignty as consumers in this market?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I think the participant is addressing directly the issue that we discussed. We agreed that when we are coming up with these business ideas, we as entrepreneurs, we have a tendency to come up with the solution first and then try to fit the solution into our consumers. So that is why you realize sometimes, because the issue of consumer sovereignty is the issue of consumers being skilled towards their preferences and taste and the behaviors that they exhibit. The moment you come up with a solution first and try to fit it into your consumers or your customers, then you will suffer the issue of consumer sovereignty. Therefore, for me, is the issue of swapping, how we have been packaging our ideas as potential entrepreneurs. First, let us start from the problem, as opposed to starting from the solution point of view and forcing that solution to our consumers. So if we look at it from that perspective, then we should be able to solve that problem.
Oh, thank you very much, Doc. But I'm not yet done with you. Pardon my oversight. I have a few more questions which I had not seen, but they are now here. So these ones look like they are really going into the cracks of the business. There's a question on the cash flow, which says that we know that cash flow is essential to business survival, yet many entrepreneurs struggle to pay bills. How do we manage that? How do we balance between the needs of the business and the needs of our need to make the livelihood?
Right, thank you very much. That is the issue of cash flow. When it comes to cash flow as we conduct our businesses, we have what we call forecasting models that we use, cash flow forecasting approaches that we use to forecast how much cash flow the enterprise will require at a given particular point in time. Therefore, it is upon us as potential entrepreneurs to ensure that we are able to do those forecasting appropriately so that we are sure we have sufficient cash flow to allow us continue to be in business. Over and above that, we also encourage potential and upcoming entrepreneurs to use mentors, because your mentors will be able to direct you to the right places. They'll be able to point out the common problematic areas and how we can solve them. That particular participant, if he is an upcoming entrepreneur, I would encourage that participant to have a mentor who will help them, someone who is experienced, someone who has conducted businesses previously and can help point out possible problems and solutions to cash flow issues.
Thank you very much, Dr. for those responses. I think the other 3 questions which I have on my board are about participants who want specific assistance on where to pitch their ideas and how to be linked to this mentorship. And I think I would want to encourage them to keep on board. We will keep pointing them to resources that we have. Some of them that are going to come from this training and others that will continue because of the engagement we have between the 2 partners, Karatina University and YES. So thank you very much, our hosts, Dr. Wachira, Elizabeth, and Dr. Kagema. I think I would hand over to Dr. Wachira so that she can finish up the program for the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Moshina, for that, and to our trainees, thank you for engaging us in those questions. Just a update, the attendance form is live, and for those that say they cannot access it, if you click it again and refresh it, you should be able to access it. We have tested it on a few other platforms. So please try again on that one. You should be able to access that, and apologies for those that were not able to do so. Without further ado, let me turn it over to, sorry about that. Let me turn it over to Dr. Kagema. And another reminder is the form will stay live for about another few minutes before the session ends. If for some reason you are still having issues, please shoot us an email immediately after this so we can cater to that, since this is on a timestamp. Dr. Kagema, back to you.
Oh, great and awesome, Dr. Elizabeth. I think the whole family is excited by the trend of this training. I believe all our participants have been enlightened, and every day we are opening a fresh page. Personally, I've been mentored. I've been taken through the journey of mentorship. Just like what Brian said, there's no limit to who can be a mentor. It can also be a young person. So that was quite powerful. Equally, Dr. Kiambati taking us through the journey of joining the gaps so that we can get working into the world of entrepreneurship, and this is quite amazing. So that actually wraps up day 2 of our discussion, of our training. We are quite delighted that we are moving on very well, and we want to urge everyone to get on board till the last day, which is Friday, when we'll be having the crossing session. I would request the Dean School of Business, Dr. Gishohe. I can see he's in the house to give the concluding remarks on behalf of each one of us. And I would, even at this juncture, appreciate the presence of the Registrar Academic Research and Student Affairs of Karatina University, Dr. Wangari Gadudi. She's in the house. And also I've seen Professor Wanjao is also in the house, and everyone who has joined in the course of the session. Dr. Wangari, could you please give us a shout out? Okay, no problem. So over to Dr. Gishohe. Dr. Gishohe, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, please kindly give the closing remarks so that we can end the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kagema. Well, one thing, sorry, I joined a bit late. And I was just interested in following up and learning from the topics that were handled. So I want to say this, that it's been a good session. It's been a very great session for even for us to learn, all of us, including the young people, the old people.